Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Welcome to our new webinar. Today we'll be talking about coaching readiness. This is Özlem Sarıoğlu. I'm a professional coach and one of the
I'm
co-founders
Danny.
of Readiness.
And I'm the designer. Sorry for cutting you in.
Not to get
Welcome,
no.
everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we are co-founders. That happens. Yeah. Today we're going to talk about the topic of coaching readiness, as we mentioned, and we just want to start from a place of first defining what we mean by coaching readiness, and also looking into why it's important, because we see that now with more and more people getting a know-how about coaching or being exposed to coaching, that it is a very important topic that we need to discuss. So let's first start by defining what coaching readiness is. Coaching readiness is actually having the proper foundation and mindset to take advantage of any future coaching opportunities. And sometimes it's also called coachability, which on one level is a good definition because it involves some ability in it, and that means that as any ability, it can be developed. But the flip side of that definition is sometimes people are labeled as uncoachable. So it really feels like, yeah, that person is broken, which as a coach, I don't really like, because in coaching, we have the overall mindset of looking into the potential of the people. Personally, I prefer to use the word coaching readiness, but throughout this presentation, we might switch between different words, coachability and coaching readiness, because sometimes in the field, I mean, not sometimes, most of the time in the field, the same word is used as coachability.
At the same time, when we're talking about coaching readiness, one might think any future coaching opportunities that it involves only coaches. However, coachability or coaching readiness also addresses the issues about getting feedback from the managers, leadership support, mentor support, and peer support. So it's actually an ability about taking support of others in a growth mindset.
Yeah. So if we can look into the behaviors that are involving coaching readiness, actually, in the field, there has been research that coaches do consider coachability as one of the core, ingredients of a successful coaching relationship. And there are certain agreements about what are the behaviors behind that. But at the same time, there is no just one definition, like this is the thing. But generally, where coaches agree upon as the behaviors around it is, as Danny mentioned, having growth orientation, having a growth mindset, being open to experimentation, willingness to take responsibility, being action oriented, and being open to seek support and also accept support, and also being self-disciplined to walk through this process and develop themselves. And that, of course, also, as Danny mentioned, it's not only something that we need for being ready for coaching. What we actually need, these kind of behaviors, is also equal to a successful performer in the organization, a high performer in the organization. And there are very interesting research about, for instance, in startups and scale-ups, if the founder of the organization is coachable, then investors are much more willing to invest in those people. So unlike many other soft skills, again, a very controversial definition, so let's call them human skills. Among many of the human skills, there is generally not a direct line between, it's the skill and the money. But in that case, you can see that there is a direct line. So if you just take that definition and bring it into the talents, for instance, in an organization, or employees in an organization, leaders in an organization, that it means that those people are then much more open to grow the organization, to grow themselves, to use the resources of the organization in the right manner, and to receive feedback throughout this process. So it is involved, not as we've been talking about, not only for the coaching sessions, but it is a general approach to growing.
And at the same time, being coaching ready goes hand in hand with current way of doing business. So when we are talking about agile, when we are talking about design thinking or customer oriented experiences, our workforce needs to be more empathetic, more agile. They have to be solution driven and ready to grow, ready to change their position. So they have to be open to experimentation. When we are talking about coaching readiness, the qualities that addresses coaching readiness actually can propagate success or a road to success in other culture qualities that we are thinking of today. As I mentioned, like agile, design thinking, customer oriented or customer centric organizations, and also this builds up cooperation in the company as well, because it's also when you're willing to take responsibility and open to experimentation, also accept support. These qualities also can translate into provide support, help others to take responsibility, help others to be open to experimentation. So this is there's a culture piece as well.
Yeah, so it's not a just one-way street of the individual developing, but it is actually multiple ways. Is the individual, willing to grow, but also are they willing to grow also the others? Are they willing to grow the business and or society in general? You can also talk about, like, if you're not just looking into the business world. So it is a quality that we need to take life or the business further as well. So it's not only specific to the individual. So if we can go back to the presentation again. So why are we talking about coaching? Well, most of the research shows that coaching is an effective treatment to many of the problematic areas of the workforce today. We need engagement. We've been talking about the silent quitting, but also in the sense of disengagement, but we're also talking about great resignation. So coaching is known to increase engagement of the people. Coaching also is known to increase the productivity of the people, and it is known to improve communication skills. So all of those issues that we're facing today in the workplace, in the business environment, not maybe all, but most of the issues that we're facing in terms of the culture, these are very much linked to coaching. So, it is on one hand easy to say then, okay, so great. So if this is the solution, this is a treatment, let's bring coaching to everyone in an organization, right? So actually, no. Unfortunately, we're going to talk about the reasons, but with the democratization of the coaching approach, which we also support wholeheartedly, more people are now having access to coaching. On one level, that sounds great. On the other hand, there are quite some pitfalls because we also know that it is not always the case. People are not always coaching ready. So they are not, we can go back to the presentation. So they are not really all the time ready to receive coaching. So it might be the wrong timing for the person. Something else is going on in their lives. Maybe they just, for instance, had a baby, or they're going through some divorce. And the company says, great, we're going to hire your coach, but their focus area is somewhere else. So first, it might be the wrong timing. They might have limited awareness about themselves. And yes, we know that coaching is there to increase awareness of the people, but sometimes we take a lot of time for people to figure out what they even want from coaching, what they really want to develop with coaching. So, as a professional coach, I can also share that in the traditional methods, when just somebody comes over to coaching, especially if their organization sent those people to coaching, they are there, and then we spend, let's say, 3 to 4 sessions really trying to narrow it down to what they really want to achieve out of that relationship. The other could be all the wrong assumptions about coaching. The assumption that my coach will tell me what to do. The assumption that, actually, I need to see a therapist, but, coach sounds better. So, and as professional coaches, we have the ethical, liability. If a person is coming to coaching while they need therapy, we need to refer them to a professional in that field. But most of the time, when people are reaching out and saying like, hey, I need coaching, they generally don't know the difference. And so there can be all these sorts of wrong assumptions, expecting the coach to be, on the best case, a mentor, or could be an advisor. So they might have other expectations. And there's also the very popular case where actually I need to speak to, with my manager about something, but I'm dreading from that. So, I'm going to come to the coach and discuss it with them, hoping that, I can hide behind them. So that's also a very, unfortunately, popular reason that people reach out to a coach. And last but not least, there is also, having the wrong effect. Actually, the organization really wants people, for instance, they're going through a talent development program, and they're sending out their talents to meet with a coach. But people just, have the conversation, whatever they like. Or even worse, they can even just reach out to a coach. There is no program. Nobody just oriented them. They just know that, hey, there are coaches out there. I'm going to speak to them. And they're going to speak about anything, but not related to their work or the strategic goals that the organization really wants to have. If it's just, we are there just to provide you with coaches as a well-being tool, great, but not necessarily all the time that's the case.
Let me jump in. There's also a question in the comments as well. Is the scope external professional coaches? No, not only the external coaches. And I want to sum up the readiness issues to 3 major headlines. First one, the timing issues. We are not all at the same time frame in our life. So in somebody's life, sometimes the timing is not right. Maybe you're busy, maybe you're focused in something else in your life. So maybe coaching is not the right tool for your growth at that moment in your life. So that means you have to wait a while, or at least offset the issues of timing in order to address those kind of issues. The timing issues, we have the data. There are at least 3 to 5% of the people who are not at the right timing in their life. The second major headline is mismatch expectations.
Yeah.
Whether it's a professional coach, mentor, internal coach, leader as a coach, when the coachee, the employee, is not ready to let's say receive that kind of support, if they have mis-expectations. So that's a major issue when you're talking with talents or employees. They have a certain mindset about coaching, and you can again subcategorize this headline, like for the young talents, they're expecting to be consulted or driven, or like managed. They're expecting to say, let's say, a clear action plan, or they're expecting um, management sometimes from coaching, or some magic wand that they will touch them and they will perform magically better. So that kind of mis-expectations, but it can shift in another direction. When you're a little senior, your expectations from coaching might shift in a way that they say coaching is not for me because I don't want anyone to tell me how to do my business. So when we are saying expectations, you have to also consider different phases of life. Can we go back to presentation? I want to address the third one. Actually, the third issue with coaching readiness and the effect part of it. If you set the tone and the goal of the coaching in a wrongly manner or misleading manner, it can generate the effects that you're not expecting. As Özlem addressed, somebody who is not happy to work in an environment, they are looking for coaching just as a push to leave that company. However, coaching doesn't work like that. So I know we have cases that some of the coaches come to coaches in a manner that they want to leave the company, but they realize they have to work on themselves, and they change the initial thought of leaving the company, and they come to a point where they can develop themselves and stay in the company. So
I should also add one thing there. Very good point, because as coaching, what we are doing is actually making people take responsibility for their lives. And if they are in the victim mode, like, oh, the company did this to me, and my manager is doing that, we're actually making them aware of their responsibility, their share, what they can change in themselves. So coaching actually does the unexpected in that sense. But there is, as Danny mentioned, there is that wrong assumption.
And the overall idea about these three major headlines: timing, mismatch of expectations, and having wrong assumptions, let's say, actually most of them can be addressed. The most difficult one is the timing, which is a smaller percentage of the three, but the major part of these issues can be addressed. Can we jump to the next slide?
Sure.
So in our experience, since we are working with data, and our tool actually focuses on coaching readiness, which we will come to in a couple of slides. With data, I can come to conclusion that 5 to 10% of the attendees of any kind of coaching, mentoring, or leadership program are actually already coaching ready. They are somehow aware of their issues. They are somehow knowledgeable about their goals, what they're expecting from coaching. They're aware of that process, and they're willing to jump in with a coach and directly work and directly generate huge ROI for the coaching investment. Again, just to go back on the question, it might be external professional coach, internal coaches, whoever you like. And on the other hand, we have a resistant people. As I mentioned, there are three major issues there. But what we can say with fairly accurately, 10 to 15% of the attendees to these kind of programs actually resistant to coaching.
Yeah, and we have been running programs globally with different age groups and different, cultures. And this number is what we come up with most of the time. So it's, irrespective
it's not based in demographics.
Exactly, not based in demographics at all.
So that leaves us 75 to 85% in a program to be addressed in terms of coaching readiness. That's the large portion of attendees that we can influence, we can persuade, or let's say prepare for coaching. We can develop them to become more coaching ready. And just to be blunt about it, in this 75-85% in the program, there are some part that is more lean towards development, but they don't know how. So any kind of coaching readiness tool just provides that small tap so they can generate a lot more ROI in the investment. And there is, let's say, half of this portion, around 30-35%, that are in need of more awareness, more focus, and more structural process, more than a tap, to bring them up to speed with coaching process so they can be coaching ready.
Yeah, I need to underline one thing over here. So there is, we've been talking about, like, mostly in coaching, we talk about trust-based relationships. That trust is very important in coaching. And most of the time we are focusing a lot on the trust between the coachee and the coach. So whoever is coaching, let's say, again, coming back to the question, but like that relationship is the core thing most of the time. But what we're generally missing out is actually, when we're talking about trust, the trust is also about trusting the process itself. Like, this coaching thing works, kind of a feeling. Like, it's not just talk, because what we are used to in terms of development is generally, our school systems or going to a training. So we are so much used to somebody else telling me what to do, and we kind of reciprocate it in our minds, like as if only form of development can be when somebody tells me what. And with coaching, we have a different mindset. Somebody now asks me, and makes me come up with my own answers. So believing in that process is quite I would say, a piece that we are trying to build also in our coaching sessions with our clients as a coach. So what we are now trying to focus on is to give people a taste of how it would feel like if they were answering questions, if they were walking through their process, and start gaining that trust. So, for instance, we're going to come about like how we solve that. But when people see the process of the coaching in front of their eyes, step by step, then they start understanding, oh, it's not just like talking only. It really looks like, for instance, a project management system. So especially for more people, technical people, engineers, accountants, so people who really like to be first knowing about the processes rather than just jumping into things, to get away from that suspicion of, would this coaching thing work? Actually, we can win them over in the process. And the other research that is also important to share is sometimes, especially for some introvert people, it is also not possible to trust the coaching process, and not possible to trust the coach to share things. And maybe after, I don't know, fifth session or something, they finally bring out what the main issue is. So what we're also trying to achieve is give them the luxury of a digital process, so that they can get away from that social censoring and actually expressing themselves. Also, research on digital therapy also shares the same thing. When people have that experience by themselves first, they are much more open to share their issues. They are much more open to trust the process, even before having that relationship with the individuals.
And just before jumping into how you can prepare your employees to become more coaching ready, you have to understand, and I want to underline what Özlem said about the momentum of the coaching process. We also have around 10 to 15% in this middle chunk that are not resistant to coaching, but they are expecting quicker results. They want their momentum. They want to go directly to the heart of the matter and work with themselves. In this case, current structure of coaching, which is sessions, half an hour, 1 hour sessions, maybe a little more, 2 to 3 weeks of in between session process, which is beneficial, and another coaching session. So in between sessions, when the process prolongates too long, when we're going with the younger generations who are actually more lean towards binge watching and devouring content, let's say, they want that momentum. So let me clear about one thing. We are not trying to provide that momentum in a manner that it will erode the slowing down and gaining awareness. However, the early adoption of that coaching process, the early stages of that coaching process, can be also, as Özlem said, quickened with coaching readiness tools like ours. That's actually a great segue to our next slide, which is
how we do it.
You can actually develop, measure, and scale coaching readiness. So the numbers that I'm sharing with you, the 5 to 10%, 75 to 85% in the middle tier, and 10 to 15% on the lower end, actually are actual numbers with our clients, with our users, and we can tag them, we can develop them, and we can actually create that additional value by investing in the coaching readiness of these attendees.
Yeah. And so how we do that? Let's come to that. So what we're doing is actually we're providing digital self-reflective exercises to people before they start their coaching process. And to address that also important issue of like what their expectation and the organization's expectation might not be matching, we are designing the digital exercises to fit the strategic goals of the organization. So that, there can be many different journeys in that sense. Could be a leadership development journey, could be female leadership, could be talent development, first 90 days of someone just joining the organization. So there can be many different routes that you want to give coaching support for. So we are designing the process on the digital exercises to fit those. And it's important to note here that the process that they're going through on the self-reflective exercises is most of the time open-ended. So it is not kind of a directive tool saying like, oh, okay, if you click there, that's your solution. No, we're just giving them the space. We're asking them questions. We're giving them interactive tools like you see over here, like picking and choosing from photos or listening to audio files. We give them the space to really slow down and have some self-reflection so that they get prepared to their coaching session, but they also understand how the coaching process works. Is it just a digital tool? No, we have a blended approach. So first people go through the self-reflective exercises, and then we match them with a coach only if they figure out that they need a coach. So there can also be cases where people say, oh, I was expecting something else, sorry. And that will be it. Then they won't take the time of the coach, and you can then deliver the coaching conversations to other people in the organization. But if they figure out that, yes, I'm going to have a conversation with the coach, now I'm ready, now I know what I'm going to talk about, then they start their coaching sessions. But since they've done that work on the platform, and the coach can also see as much as they share with the coach about what they've done, the coach also knows where they're coming from. So there is no need for repetition. There is no need for going through the basics of coaching. And if a person says that they want to develop, let's say, I don't know, their patience, or their innovation, their creativity, whatever, the coach can start immediately from that place, just diving into that development area, rather than spending the first session, let's get to know each other, and this is the coaching process, and just tell me about your vision. So all the basics, all those things are already handled on the platform. And of course, from an HR perspective, the beautiful thing is, then you can actually have a data set about the process, and you can have analytics tools about the process without breaching the coaching confidentiality. You don't know what they're writing into the platform about their coaching content, but you can generate lots of information about who needs a little bit more touch, who needs a little bit more push, or what might be the blind areas of the people. So the analytics can actually help people, or also for the HR, to see who's really engaged to this process. We can integrate the company's competency model into the platform, for instance. So like, how did they evaluate themselves? What are the gaps? If we involve the manager, how did the manager involve them and evaluated them? How many sessions happened, etc., etc. So you can generate a lot of information, a lot of insights based on all that work that is going through. It is still, the content is still a sealed box for you with confidentiality, but now you're able to generate lots of data around it. Would you like to share something, Dania? I just went too quick maybe into the slides.
No worries. I just actually wanted to underline one part. There are analytics and there are analytics. So you may have a lot of data. The important part of data that it has to be actionable. Mm-hmm. When we are talking about analytics, we see that coaching actually generates a lot of engagement, a lot of good feelings and high promoter scores when we implement them. And by the way, again, I'm using the Mr. Breach question to underline one part of it. The hype and the good engagement scores and good promoter scores are not highly affected by the structure of the program. It might be external coaching, it might be internal coaching, it might be a mentoring program, as long as they are implemented in a correct way, in a right strategic direction. On top of it, when you have enough data, you need also a certain way to take action on them. As we mentioned, some percent of your employees or your attendees will be resistant to coaching for reason we explained, maybe for reasons that we somehow skip to map in our current data. However, we are aware that at least 5 to 10% of your employees will be resistant to coaching, and it's important to map them early on, and if possible, drive them away from the program or take them in another route to develop themselves, or at least get their feedback and maybe adjust the program accordingly. So there's been always this issue with coaching, which is the confidentiality. However, in our last it's been about maybe 8 to 10 years that we are implementing this.
It's a decade. It's more than a decade.
We know that most of the HR professionals are not into bits and pieces of the information the employees shared in the platform. However, the broader picture can shed a light on many things. For example, in some programs, the resistance to coaching may be related to relation between the employee and their manager, yes, the talents and their leaders. In some cases, it might be about some sort of transition in the company, some sort of language or some sort of buy-in from the upper management. So these kind of information can be uh, recovered without breaching that confidentiality.
Yeah.
It's more of a question of where to focus and how you can utilize the data. And again, since we are talking about Sparkus, uh, we know that in order to run a good coaching, mentoring, coach like leader program, you have to keep the confidentiality, you have to be strict about it, and you have to inform your attendees about it. So it's not only we are keeping the confidentiality, you have to communicate that as well. Once you communicate that, there's no, let's say, risk in utilizing quantified anonymized data. And in that case, you need some sort of benchmarks, and you don't only can rely on the number of sessions and the session scores, because at the end of the day, most of the sessions, this is the issue with coaching, generate happiness or high net promoter scores, because at the end of the day, there's someone who's listening to the coachee or the mentee in the company that generates good hype around it. You need more data points, and you need to correlate with your internal data,
Performance issues. Yeah. Yeah.
and also you have to map your efforts with the competencies of the company, with the strategic goals of the company that you want to address with coaching. And there lies the value of good data and how you can correlate them with the program management.
But it's also a design issue, isn't it, Danny? You are the designer, maybe not to mention it, but it is also like some organizations with their coaching programs want to have their strategic goal is actually to provide coaching to as many people as possible, but also use the preparation tool to almost like a filter to figure out, especially we see that a lot in internal coaching programs, for instance, like there is a limited number of coaches there in the organization. So the program managers really want to make coaching available, but they also want to ensure that the right people are really knocking on the doors of the coaches, because they have very limited people there. So they might prefer to use the preparation tool like a almost a filter. In other
And
organizations, they might share like, no, it is a talent development program, and we want all of the talents to really benefit from it. So the way you would design the coaching program and the platform would differ in those cases. And of course, then like what you measure in the analytics, how you look into the data would change. So it's not always a direct line of saying like, hey, if the usage rates are high and if people are knocking on the doors of coaching, everything is great. For some organizations, it's not. And for some other organizations, no, yes, I mean, we need everyone to really to go through the coaching to gain benefits. And as you mentioned, Danny, very well, sometimes people, like if they're not being challenged by the coach and just being listened to, they would be very happy with coaching. But what does it tell about the coaching process? Sometimes you might need to feel a little bit not comfortable because you've been challenged. So that is also part of the process. So what you're measuring is very much based on what you want to achieve. So that's why we underline that we are working quite in line with the strategic goals of the organization.
I just want to top it up with the idea of framework. The framework of the preparation, the exercises, and the strategic alignment of the exercises with the company strategy provides clarity for the employees, and that adds up to the coaching readiness, because most of the employees who are coached within the company program, they also have hesitations about the hidden agenda of the company.
Yeah.
Once they see the content in the platform and how it is related with their performance. It is related with that company strategy, but it's also focused on the individuals. That also provides additional transparency and additional trust between the company-led programs and the attendees of those programs as well.
Yeah. So I'm aware of the time, and I just want to have enough space for potential questions that might be there. Can we just go back to the slides and a little bit sum it up? So what we are really doing in the organizations, we are scaling the process with optimized coaching experiences, with higher coaching readiness for the people. So the platform and the exercises really supports that process so that we can bring coaching to more people who are really ready to benefit from this service. We are able to create a framework for the coaching dialogues, as we mentioned, that would fit in line with your strategy. So we can create multiple routes and journeys, coaching journeys to people with relevant coaching exercises. And last but not least, as we mentioned, that you can actually measure the process and the engagement results. And then you can kind of correlate with what you achieve with coaching, with your other strategies. For instance, a talent development program might look from the perspective of just development of people, but it might generate a lot of data, again, underlining, without breaching the confidentiality, about your talent pipeline strategy. So those are all we're going to share. Then would you like to add one more thing before I turn to the questions?
There are actually one comment and one question, and I want to answer before jumping into that part. What we should do if we find the person is not coaching ready. So first of all, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to this question. In some cases, the best solution is taking their consent and relieving them from the coaching program. That might be a route. Another route is deep diving the reason of that they're not being coaching ready. It might be about, as we said in the beginning, it might be about timing. If it's a timing issue, I believe that it's not wise to push them to receive coaching. Whenever we talk with Özlem, we mentioned the dentist experience of coaching for both the coach and the coachee. So it's like picking the tooth and like trying to take it off, yanking the tooth, let's say. And in other cases, it might be about the design of the program, or you might learn something from them. Again, the coaching readiness tool, since it provides you the right data, it might be very beneficial for the company to ask them why they are reluctant to receive coaching. In some cases, we realize it might be about, again, some program design issue. It's rare, but it happens. They might have, as I mentioned, sometimes employees have, I don't want to call it wrong ideas, but it might be fantasies, or it might be some preconditioned ideas about their company's coaching program design. They feel like they're somehow pushed towards performing better, pushed towards some direction that they are not motivated into. And that's not about coaching. That might be some conflict between themselves and the company. In those cases, a better communication will address most of the issues. And again, if there's no benefit for the employee for the coaching program, it's I believe the better choice is to relieve them from the program. And we did that with some of our users. The number is very low. I'll be honest about it. We coached more than thousands, and the number is less than 10. So yes, if they're not coaching ready, you have to take action. In rare cases, you have to relieve them from the program. And to come to William's comment about transparency, when we founded Sparkus, both Özlem, she's a coach anyway, but I'm a designer and I decided my career with coaching. There's a story for another webinar maybe. We were both believers in coaching. And once we started to run the programs in the companies, we realized there are some experience issues, design experience issues for the coaching programs. And one of the issues is transparency. Not all the employees are clear about performing their role in the company, what is expected from them. In a perfect environment, yes, they are, but we know that we are running in a global work environment. Not all companies are equal. Not all managers are equal. The presumptions of some employees can be addressed really well with clear and transparent communication of the program, clear and transparent communication of the strategic goal of the program. So it's all about, I believe, designing better experiences and including most of the attendees. Thank you. Daria is asking about the story. Again, it's not so short story, but just to give you a hint about it, I was a really mediocre student in high school. To be, like, politically correct about it, my mom was always complaining about my academical achievements, let's say. And all the time I was saying, like, I'm not motivated. And it was really difficult for me to, let's say, finish high school. And when I decided my career early in my youth, that I want to become a designer, it was all clear. And not only I started to connect the dots between the academical success of my, let's say, early days with the potential success in the future business, but I also realized I have to at least finish high school in order to go to the masters that I'm dreaming of, which is a design masters in Milan. So coaching actually somehow helped me to internalize that in order to achieve my goals, I have to sometimes overcome some obstacles that are not, let's say, seemingly connected with my end goal. So again, it's a very story. However, coaching helped me immensely. And just to give you a happy ending, I completed my high school. I went to undergrad in design, in industrial design. I completed the undergrad with valedictorian degree. I went to Domus Academy, which was a dream masters for me, and I completed that course with high grades as well. And actually, I'm implementing design tools in everyday life. So yeah, it helped me immensely. So,
yeah, and I think that note about how it supports, also how coaching supports resilience, is also a good example there. And I really loved Bryce's question about one of the challenges that they find is at the start and initial stage, both the coached executives and sponsors are enthusiastic, and fairly soon that disappears, and even getting their time slots become difficult. Sounds familiar? That's exactly what we are working on, Bryce. So it is, yes, I mean, that sounds, of course, familiar, because that is the one of the core cases. Because in traditional coaching, or also in mentoring, that's also the case. So I don't know where you're experiencing this, either with external coaches or internal coaching programs, or mentoring programs. at the start, people are like, oh, great, somebody's going to support me. So they have that notion that, oh, I'm going to speak to someone. But sometimes they really don't know. Not sometimes. I mean, that's exactly what we've been discussing about. Most of the time, they don't know what they're going to talk about. So there is a level of trying to understand, what is their benefit from this process. So they tip their toes into the water, slowly, trying to figure out how it will look like. And let's imagine the typical executive coaching route, which is generally you tell people that they're going to be assigned a coach, and then you just give them generally like 3 options and have some chemistry sessions. So all of those sessions, of course, that requires time of the coach and the executive to fit those times in the schedule. So you just arrange them. Then the person finally picks up a coach. And then if you're just involving also their manager, then they are having a 3-way meeting with the manager and talking about the development goals, what might be those. And finally, or maybe there's also 360s involved, and then you send 360s, expect the answers to come back. And then you finally start the coaching sessions. And the first sessions are generally about who you are, who am I, and what are the goals you want to achieve, what did you like about what your manager said, what didn't you like about that, and just having those conversations and trying to really figure out what the person is going to achieve through the coaching process. So all of them, from the day that you say that we're going to assign you a coach, this generally takes, like until the first session, it already takes a few weeks, generally months. And then there comes the moment of trying to understand how coaching would benefit. And around the 3rd session or something, finally the coachee gets that feeling of like, oh, this is what I can achieve from coaching. So it is almost now 2 months, 3 months that they've been in this journey, but the real transformation didn't happen. And if we're talking about people with busy schedules and who doesn't have that at this time of the year and in this life generally, like, so everybody has busy schedules. So it's like, this coaching thing, I was assigned a coach, but things are not going well. And multiply it now with internal people. If you're having internal coaches, if you're having internal mentors, then trying to find the time of the mentor is also an issue. So those gaps between the sessions are more and more broader. So the moment you start and the moment you try to finally get the feeling is, now we're talking about months, even more months. So what we're trying to overcome is to shorten that period so that people won't lose that first enthusiasm. What we're trying to do, like on the platform, what they can do, they can select their coach. They can see, they just fill out their preferences. They are shown different people. And then they have that conversation with the, they select the, I would say the chemistry is already done on the platform. So they select the coach and they have given the opportunity to change if they need to. So that happens very quickly. Then they can send out 360s to people. They can send reminders whenever they like. So that's there. They go through the exercises. They already start receiving when they're going through the exercises. It's not just like filling out a form. Because when they go through the exercises, we show them back what they've done, ask additional questions. They start connecting the dots. And we hear a lot from the coaches that when I was going through the platform, a lot of things started falling into place. So as a coach, I have seen multiple times that people are reaching out. Thank you. I will come to that. So there are multiple times that people come to the session saying like, oh, that one development goal I wrote, I just did the action planning around that. It's already going on. So even before they come together with the coach, the transformation started. We can involve the manager. We can have the 360, the 3-way meetings as a part of the platform as well. So that process, from the moment they are going through the kickoff and sitting together with the coach, is something like 2 to 3 weeks. We just give them the platforms, exercises, an extended period. The moment they spend on the platform is around 1.5 to 2 hours in total. But we just want to give them enough time to really, slow down and chew it, yeah, and also, business of life. But we generally tend to give 2 to 3 weeks. And since they've done the exercises, as I mentioned, when they come together with the coach, the transformation conversation, the impact session starts from the first session. So at the beginning, they are going through the kickoff. They're told, like, you're involved in this program, 2 to 3 weeks, and then they have their transformation session already. So that momentum is not lost throughout the process. Thank you, whoever asked the question.
Özlem provided you the coaching perspective of it, and I just wanted to add a layer of design as well. When we buy a new product or when we undertake a new relation, if there's a new shiny thing in our life, there is this first initial effect of, oh, I have this, so you're excited, you have something new. If you don't have any buyer's remorse, which in this case, your company actually assigned you a coach, you have this nice shiny new coach, and you believe that you will somehow go through a transformation, that you will be much more successful, or in a way you have your own expectations from coaching and you want to achieve them as fast as possible. But as with any new products, as you can imagine, again, I'm talking from the design layer of it, that new shiny thing effect wear off if you lose that momentum. And if you kind of lose that in the process, it's really difficult to re-engage people. So the initial momentum is really important. That's why we talk about initial momentum, because from the shiny new thing, you have to take the coaches as fast as possible to the moment of, as Özlem described, that aha moment that you live in the coaching, that, oh, this is what coaching is, and this is really beneficial for me. From that point on, it's not only a great new shiny thing, but it's a efficient tool that you're utilizing, and it's easier to internalize once you see the effects. And at the end of the day, with coaching, you have to go through some transformation that you might be a little resistant to it. However, if you have that momentum and if you have that trust between you and the program, I'm underlining the word program, not only the coaching process, because once you're running a company size program, you also have others that are running in the similar program. So there are other champions benefiting from coaching, and that generates a buzz, and that also let's say increase the level of engagement within the attendees. Also, you have to utilize other design tools that support this kind of momentum and experience, like Özlem mentioned, reminders and nudges and internal re-engagements, like mid-program webinars, or let's say feedback sessions. So it's also a question of design and experience design as well. Thank you, everyone. I believe we are approaching at the end of the hour. I'm just checking if we are
most of the comments on the chat are also for thank you. Thank you, Bright, and thank you, William, for the questions.
Just not to skip the question about how much time does this approach save. In the beginning, it saves around 75% of the time from the assignment of the program, not the coach, assignment of the program till the aha moment. And it takes tapers of around 50 to 60% of the sessions required to achieve similar effects.
Thank you for the comments. We are glad that you enjoyed it and found it useful. And please leave to the chat box what you want us to discuss in the next webinars. We're going to do a lot about them. We can dive into certain topics that we discussed today, or we can also open a total new chapter about digital coaching. So we are very open to hear your comments, thoughts, and requests. So we can go ahead with those as well. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So see you around. We will